Well, hello, Janus friends. It's a chilly afternoon here in northern Indiana. I've got a stove going, but you can still see my breath out here. And it's one of those days where there's no snow, there's no ice on the road, there's no salt on the road, at least on well-traveled roads. It's cold, but it would be a great day to take a motorcycle out for a ride. And I know a lot of motorcyclists their bikes are winterized, they're put away, and that's certainly, you can save the summer for your riding. However, up here in the upper Midwest, we don't have a whole lot of we have a shorter riding season than, let's say, someone in a more southern state. Certainly less riding season than if you live in California or Florida. But it's a fantastic, there is an opportunity to ride more. And I wanted to talk a little bit today about preparing the motorcycle and the rider for kind of extending your riding season. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk a little bit about what the bike needs to get the best use and safety on the road in colder weather, and then also some gear for the rider that's going to help you extend your riding season. So I'll start with talking a little bit about the motorcycle. Winter riding is very much like, it's going to be the same thing as riding anytime. However, there are different conditions out there that you're going to want to be aware of and really kind of take advantage of to have a more fun out on the road. So all the standard kind of T-clocks checks still hold true. Obviously, you're taking your motorcycle out on the public roads. So going through, I'm not going to go through all the things you need to check, but you got your standard stuff. Is the battery charged? Do you have it on a battery tender? That's a great one thing in the winter. These bikes are sitting out in this garage is unheated, unless I'm out here with a fire. And so the batteries are getting really cold. And so you really do want to keep them maintained, keep them topped up, keep them on a charger. So both this is Halcyon 68, by the way. So this is the bike that I have put many thousands of miles on. I've ridden it cross country from San Francisco to New York, around Lake Michigan, from here down to New Orleans and back, and then many local rides around town. This is also kind of my daily commuter. Actually, my KLR is kind of down for the winter right now. I've got to figure out some kind of carburation issue on it. But so anyway, it's given me a great opportunity to take out the Halcyon more. And if you're a Janus owner, you'll know about a Halcyon or any of our 250s. They are cold-blooded, so they take a little bit to warm up. So you got to be ready to use that choke, get it warmed up, and get it out on the road. But so that would be one thing: battery maintenance, tire pressure. You're going to want to be. I always try and change the oil in the fall, and then even if you haven't been riding it, sometimes depending on how long it's been sitting, you might want to go ahead and give it another oil change. Even if you haven't been riding it, that oil can break down. But depending on your mileage, a fall oil change is a great thing to do. And then checking everything else. Make sure your lights are working. Check and make sure your blinkers are all functional and operational. All that good stuff. So those are a couple of things you want to kind of look for when you're taking your bike out in colder weather. Keep letting it warm up. So give it a little bit, especially on a carbureted 250 Halcyon or any 250 Janus. Let it warm up, and then you won't have to worry about it stalling or anything like that at the first stoplight you get to. Of course, once you've made it a couple of blocks, it's going to be warmed up enough that it's going to run just fine. So that's kind of the basics of the bike. in this video, I'm not going to really talk much about heated gear. That is an option, and that would be something that you would need to do to your motorcycle. So some options for if you wanted to do that would be, I think the first thing I would do would be consider a battery operated vest or battery operated gloves. Those are both great options. You can find them relatively affordably, and it's going to really extend your riding. But today, I'm just going to talk about kind of passive keeping yourself warm gear, and we're not talking about going on a 100-mile ride. we're talking about, a typical, it's Saturday afternoon. You want to take your Janus, maybe 20, 25 miles. This is the kind of stuff that, without a huge outlay of expense and gear, you can get on the road using probably a lot of the gear you already have, and then maybe augment it a little bit with some of the stuff I'm going to cover. So I'm not going to talk about if you wanted to, heated grips or that kind of stuff. We'll just talk about gloves and all the other things. So without further ado, let's kind of dig into some of the gear that I would take if I'm going to go out on a ride this afternoon. So today, temperature is probably around 28, 30 degrees. It's pretty cold, and you might get some funny looks riding your motorcycle, but that doesn't mean it isn't a lot of fun and a great way to enjoy your bike more. Get out and keep that bike. One thing I didn't mention about the motorcycle is one of the best things you can do to maintain it over the winter is ride it. So get that gas flowing through the carburetor, keep the gas circulated, getting that battery charged up, running it, getting everything warmed up. A 20-mile ride, everything's gonna get up to temperature and be ready to go. So anyway, back to the gear. I'm going to start from kind of like the base and then work our way out to what you're going to wear on the outside. So the first thing that I would say is kind of a must is some sort of base layer. That could be anything from your Walmart long johns, which they'll do quite a bit. I'm actually wearing some long johns right now. I wear long johns all the time. Our shop is sometimes it's not as warm as you'd like it to be. So it's kind of I just wear long johns all the time in the wintertime here up in the cold Midwest. But there are a lot of options for motorcyclists, skiers. Any kind of winter gear is going to be totally applicable to you as a motorcyclist. So anything from kind of like the inexpensive Walmart, Tractor Supply, long johns, up to like a merino wool base layer is probably the best thing you can do. Or this is a more motorcycle specific gear. This is a base layer made by LD Comfort. This is a product that I became familiar with when I started, when I rode cross country. And I was hanging out with a lot of long distance motorcyclists, the LD riding community as they call themselves, that do the iron butt rides, 1,000 miles in 24 hours, 1,800 miles, across the country and back in insane amounts of time. So these people are people that take gear very seriously. And this is LD Comfort base layer. This works both for winter riding and for keeping you cool in the summertime. So it's an amazing, actually wicking material. If you're interested, Mario Winkleman, the owner of the company, is a long distance motorcyclist, and he has some awesome videos talking about how this is actually a wicking material. So this is a top. It's got a nice kind of a mock turtleneck, which is really nice and staying warm. And then also you have the full length long underwear pants, and these are designed specifically for motorcycling. But anything long johns is going to work, especially if you're only doing a 20-mile ride. A 20-mile ride is a lot different than if you're out trying to ride all day long, which you're instantly going to be talking about heated gear, etc. Because essentially, when you're on a motorcycle, you have to deal with wind chill. So there are some really great motorcycle wind chill factors, and they basically line it up with how fast you're going, what the actual temperature is. But the key, I would say, if you're going to be riding in colder weather, is over layering, and then you're going to be colder than it feels when you walk out your door because you've got that wind on you, especially on a Janus 250 or 450. There's no fairing, all this stuff to keep you a little warmer out of the wind. So you want to layer up, and you should probably be sweating if you're just walking around because you're not going to be moving a whole lot on the bike. You're going to be staying still. So next up, we've got you got your base layer. Then I typically, if I'm going to be going on a 20-mile ride, I'm going to wear my regular pants, whatever your pants are over that, with a belt, and then probably some sort of flannel shirt, flannel or some kind of long sleeve shirt. So that's 2 layers already. And then like I've got on right now is a wool sweater. I love wool. This is the gold top, very well worn and pilled up I love this sweater. This is one of the ones we sell through Janus, the gold top, basically it's modeled after a sailor's sweater, super thick, full, long collar that you can fold over or you can keep up. Super, super warm. It really builds up some space for air between your different layers, and that's going to keep you really warm. And then the next thing is, as we always stress here at Janus, is protective gear. But this is something that you're probably already going to have, or you should consider buying for summer or fall or spring riding anyway. So this is not something you just need to buy to ride in the wintertime, but that would be your outer shell. So in my case, I've had these. These are first gear, kind of budget pants that I bought, oh my goodness, years ago. And they've worked just fine. I don't know if they're waterproof anymore, but they are windproof. They zip up the side. They got some reflective gear and they have armor. So they have knee and hip armor. I've worn these cross country, all the long distance riding I've done using these pants. And they're super handy. You can just slip them on over your pants, as I say, and be ready for some cooler weather very quickly. And so by that point, you have 3 layers on. You probably, this will be the top layer, and it's going to be keeping that wind off you and keeping you warmer. Then last up, you've got your jacket. Again, this is an armored jacket. This is one that we sell through Janus. This is a partnership this is made by Vanson Leathers up in Massachusetts. They're a phenomenal old company in an old textile mill that makes beautiful leathers, racing leathers, leather jackets, and they have in recent years come out with a wax canvas series of jackets, and this is one that we worked specifically with them. We kind of designed this fully armored wax canvas jacket. It's got awesome pockets, super heavy duty hardware. I wear this on all my rides. I love this jacket. Super, super comfortable. So that would be your top layer. Now, if it's really cold out and you feel like you're going to get even colder, you could augment this with something packable. So something like a down jacket. These are down jackets I really like because you can layer it up over things and put it underneath that, and it's so thin that it's going to have huge insulating qualities, but you can still pack it underneath your jacket. And you might be a little bulbous looking, but it's going to really make sure that you stay warm. So last of all, the extremities, and that would be your hands and your feet. For motorcycling boots, for feet, we'll start with feet. For feet, you want to have some wool socks. I always like to do a thin wicking base layer, so like some kind of, just like you did with the rest of your body, a thin sock, merino wool, something polyester even, nylon socks, or some kind of specialty liner sock for hiking or whatever works fine, and then with a wool sock over the top. And you can wear something as basic as like leather work boots like this. We always recommend ankle support, or you could have a specialty. If I was going to be riding today, I'd probably put on my higher boots. They're more insulated, and it's going to keep my feet warm. Feet and primarily your hands are going to be super important. So as far as hands go, I have a couple of gloves here. Neither of these are my regular gloves. If it's warmer out, I have a leather set of gloves, but these are Tourmaster. They call these the Mid-Tech, I think. Yeah, the Mid-Tech, which is like a autumn riding glove. So you keep your hands warm, but it's not going to be today you would get cold within 5 miles in these. These are actually snowmobile gloves I got on discount at our local motorcycle store, and they're awesome. These are designed for snowmobiling, so you're going to keep your hands real warm that way. If you want to keep them a little warmer, you can get some of those hot hands, stick them in there, keep your hands in there. And again, we're not talking about a 50-mile, 100-mile ride here. We're talking about a 20-mile ride. Just go out and enjoy an hour. Or an hour. How great would it be to be able to take your motorcycle out once or twice a month, even as little as once or twice a month in the wintertime when you think you weren't going to be able to ride it. I think that's a great way to really extend the value of your bike and get some enjoyment from it in the wintertime. And the bike likes it too. The bike loves being ridden, especially, we always say that with the Janus is don't give it an easy time. They're designed to be ridden. And so the more you ride it, the better it's going to be off. Last up is a helmet. Of course, you're going to be wearing a full face helmet. I see these guys here in town, they're on their scooter or something like that, or their small motorcycle, and they're getting to work or whatever, and they've got a ski mask on. And they're all bundled up with like a hood and all this stuff. And your head would be so much warmer if you just wore a helmet. So that always kind of boggles my mind. But a full face helmet's a great way to stay warm. There are better ways to stay warm than with the Builtwell Gringo. This is a helmet we sell. It's a great helmet, great inexpensive kind of intro helmet. There are better helmets out there if you want to stay warm, or if you're riding a lot more. I wear this a lot, actually. It's easy to put on. It's easy to get to work, and I don't have to use my nice helmet all the time and kind of wear it out. But if I was going to be riding today in the cold, I probably wouldn't be using the Builtwell. I'd probably have my Schuberth modular. It's got a great neck kind of protection. It prevents cold air blasting up inside there. But you can 20-mile ride. This is going to work fine. And the key to making these work in colder weather is a scarf or a neck gaiter. We sell silk scarves from Gold Top. Silk scarves are great. Those were pioneered by pilots. So a silk scarf, you see the idea of the pilot wearing it. They wore that because they're doing the same thing we're talking about. It could be plenty warm down on the ground, but once they got up in these open cockpit airplanes, or even not open cockpit airplanes, but that's what a bomber jacket is, because it's quite cold up there. They got a lot of wind, and so a lot of motorcycle gear is modeled on, or just a continuation of flight gear. Especially if you think about the cafe racer movement of the 1950s and 60s, a lot of the founders of that kind of culture were ex-pilots, ex-RAF pilots. So a silk scarf is a great opportunity, or a great option. Also, something like this is a Gator, and you slip this over your head, and then you would put on the helmet. I'll actually show you what I do in terms of making sure that my neck stays warm. So I'll just put this on. And you tuck it down into your sweater, and you'll leave it up pretty high. I kind of put it up over my mouth and nose. Got your helmet. Put your helmet on, and you leave that gaiter up, and then you strap your helmet on over it. I don't know if you can hear me with the helmet on, but then you can pull it down. If it's over your mouth and bugging you, you can pull it down so that it's just over your chin. And I've got good protection over my neck, which if you don't have that, you're going to start getting real cold. And that's going to really affect how much you enjoy your ride. And I will talk a little bit about that, about how to enjoy the ride and how to be safe. So when it comes to cold weather riding, just like riding and fatigue, riding too long when it's warm out, you can get tired. But when you're out in the cold, your body is going to get fatigued faster, and there's some telltale signs of that. But basically, you need to be aware that as you get colder, your body's going to start shutting down some of its functionality. So your fine motor skills are going to get lost, and that's really important. If you're on your bike, you have to have good fine motor control of your braking. You don't want to be slamming the brakes on, especially when it's cold out. And clutch, everything is going to involve, you're riding a motorcycle, so there's more, you need to be able to control that well. And as the colder you get, the less ability you're going to have to do that. And you're also going to start shutting down, even your attention can be lost as the colder you get. This isn't really I'm not an expert on this, but you're going to start losing control at the colder you get. And some of the things that you're kind of telltale signs that you can kind of check on yourself are that if you're kind of like blanking out a little bit, or kind of losing focus as you're riding, that's a very good sign that you're probably really cold. if your fingers are so cold you can't feel, that's a really good sign. You need to turn around and get back home. And honestly, you don't even want to be riding if you're that cold. So a 20-mile ride or so, if you're properly prepared with the kind of the gear I went over, you should be fine. And I don't want to even scare people off of it. I say this so that you're aware that, as you get cold, if you're out there in these thin gloves and you're not prepared, you're not going to have a good time, and it could be dangerous. If you are prepared well, you're going to have a great time. It's just having some gear. I mean, the expensive stuff that I've shown you really is the gear you're going to be riding with anyway. And I don't want to say that you should go out and buy a bunch of gear to ride in the winter, because you're not going to probably be riding as much in the cold as you would in the summer. But the expensive gear that I've gone over here is the stuff that you're going to be riding with in all but the hottest weather. Like the outer pants, maybe you'd opt for something, probably it would be better if it was armored, but even, well-made jeans, but you still wouldn't have your jacket on. I was just talking to one of our customers, came in yesterday actually, and he was in a bad accident. August, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, he got hit by a deer. Well, I don't know if he hit the deer or the deer hit him, but really messed up the bike, and unfortunately really affected his ability to do anything. And so he's actually still out on leave from work, but he wasn't wearing a jacket. It was August, it was hot. And I've done that. I'm not, I'll admit right any time that there's a little bit of, during the hottest part of the summer, you just don't want to put that jacket on. Well, I'm going to do another video later on, probably talking about summer gear. And I've just been lucky enough to get my hands on a mesh jacket, which I've really wanted for a while, because I want to be able to have something that I feel comfortable wearing, and so that I'm always wearing that protective gear. So enough on all the protective gear. My main point here is just that this stuff that's going to keep you warm, the long underwear, the neck gaiter, it's probably like $10. It's not that expensive. Yeah, if you want to get a silk scarf from Gold Top, this might be a little more, but you don't need to break the bank to be able to ride in the wintertime. This wool sweater, this wool sweater actually I got at the thrift store. So, there's lots of options that you can stay really warm. Maybe you have a down jacket or a puffy jacket anyway that you can wear. So that's the basics of the gear. The only thing I didn't show you were boots, but again, where are the boots that you probably wear in the spring or fall? Those are probably going to be a great option if you put some warm socks on, layer some socks. And if you want to spend a little more money, you can get some more specific motorcycle boots that are going to keep you a little warmer. All right. So last up, just some tips for winter riding. We've kind of covered most of it, kind of the loss of control you can experience as you get colder. But my kind of thing with riding is, and this is up to the individual, but I love my bike, my KLR and my number 68 here, and I'm not going to really get too excited about taking it out in the salt. So if you're in a place like northern Midwest or anywhere that uses salt, salt is going to get up on your frame, it's going to get up on your engine cases, it's going to get on your rims, and unless you have a hot water power washer or something, it's going to stick there and it's going to start corroding the bike. So that's really, for me, the one time that I'm going to be like, no. Well, ice is one. I don't want to be out on ice. There are ways you can ride in icy conditions, studded tires, stuff like that. But we're talking about just kind of like, this is your Halcyon, or this is your Griffin or your Phoenix, and you want to get some more use out of it. Ice is not a good idea. Two-wheeled vehicles on ice, unless they have studded tires, you're asking for trouble, and like from a crashing, having an accident, or salt is just going to, you'll be fine if there's still salt left on the road, the ice is gone, but you want to take it out. You're going to be fine, but the bike is probably going to suffer, and it's going to, I actually had that happen on an old moped I used to ride that I built from scratch, and I rode it in the salt, or after a snowstorm, and it got up on the frame, and I tried to wipe it down, but it really was kind of pretty disastrous in terms of the finish of the bike. So I really wouldn't recommend that. But we're talking about right now is just, it's just like today, it's a beautiful sunny afternoon. It's cold, but apart from that, it's going to be pretty similar. I'm trying to think of any other things to kind of be aware of. Would be traction. Yeah, there may not be any ice, but you might have some sand or stuff, debris that's kind of left over from the snow. And if you're going through corners, gravel can be washed out from snow melt. I've actually experienced that and lost traction in a corner. So riding in the wintertime, that's something to kind of keep aware of, is traction is going to be greatly reduced. Even if there's no ice, your tires are not going to warm up as much. They may not warm up at all. Even riding them along, typically as your tire rotates, that contact patch is going to be squeezed out and that tire is going to warm up. It's not going to do that as much. It's probably warming up some, but it's not going to have the same traction that you have in a warmer weather. So that's definitely something to be aware of. And then that other thing I just mentioned of debris in the road, especially in low corners, kind of like where maybe some snow melt washed out, that's going to be something you want to keep an eye out for. So these are just simple things that you can do to extend your riding season. And we're going to be doing more videos like this. I look forward to kind of addressing more kind of questions folks have. This is actually a question that I've seen on the owners forum, kind of like winter riding gear, what are you using? And so I'm kind of hoping to address some of those questions. So if you have more questions about riding, I'm not the most experienced motorcycle rider in the world. I have ridden for a decade now, and over a decade, and I love riding, and I like some more extreme riding in the sense of longer distance riding and kind of trying to extend my riding season into the winter. I've always been able to keep my bikes. I don't ever really winterize my bikes because I know that I'm going to be taking those bikes out at least a dozen times over the course of the winter. So yeah, this bike hasn't been sitting over a week at this point. Oh, maybe 2 weeks. I've ridden it in. So it's a great way, if you to kind of get more use out of this bike that you've invested in and have more fun. So thanks a lot for watching. If you have questions, please ask them in the comments or suggest them on the owners forum. We love to hear from you all, and we'd love to put out more content like this. So I'm looking forward to doing some more down the road. I'm thinking tool kit review, what I carry on a Halcyon on a long distance ride, what I carry on a shorter distance ride, all kinds of fun ideas like that. So thanks a lot for following along. If you haven't already, if you're just kind of new to this, consider subscribing to our YouTube channel, like this video, and we will catch you on the next video. Thanks a lot.